We are recording. All right. And now we're going to share the screen and we're going to go there and we'll hit share. Can everyone see my screen okay? We're all
We
good?
can.
All right, here we go. I'm going to start. The value of giving before trying to get. I'm sure that no effort which we extend to those who are in distress can go without some form of adequate reward. Not always does the reward come from those to whom the service is rendered, but it will come from one source or another. I seriously doubt that any man can avail himself of the benefits of his other self as long as he is steeped in greed and avarice, envy and fear. But if I am wrong in his conclusion, then I still have the unusual honor of being one who has found peace of mind and happiness through a viewpoint that was not sound. I would prefer being thus wrong and happy to being right and unhappy. But this viewpoint is not wrong. As long as I remain on good terms with my other self, I shall be able to acquire every material thing that I need. Moreover, I shall be able to find happiness and peace of mind. What more can anyone else accomplish? The sole motive which inspired me to write this book was a sincere desire to be helpful to others by sharing with them as much as they may be prepared to accept of the stupendous fortune which became mine the moment I discovered my other self. This fortune, happily, is one that cannot be measured in material or financial terms alone, because it is greater than everything which such things represent. Material and financial fortunes, when reduced to their most liquid terms, are measurable in terms of bank balances. Bank balances are no stronger than banks. This other fortune of which I speak is measurable not only in terms of peace of mind and contentment, but as manifested in those adept at prayer. My other self has taught me to concentrate upon my purpose and to forget about the plan by which it is to be attained when I go to prayer. I am not suggesting that material objects may be acquired without plans. What I am saying is that the power, which translates one's thoughts or desires into realities, has its source in an infinite intelligence, which knows more about plans than the one doing the praying. Let's just stop there for a minute. Did anyone pull anything out of those last few paragraphs? You know, at the beginning, when he talks about helping other people, and I'm remembering back in 2006, 7, and 8, when the real estate market took a dive. I was a full-time real estate broker up in New Hampshire, and I remember hiring a coach to help me get through this crisis. All of a sudden, I've got two kids in college, two mortgage payments, two car payments, and my wife and I combined in our real estate business had one closing in the first quarter of 2006, and that just wasn't going to feed that monster. And I hired a coach to share some techniques and strategies to help other people. And what I found was I was dismayed because all of a sudden I was investing $600 a month for someone to tell me to do three things: call your past clients, write personal notes to them, and stop by and visit them every once in a while. And I'm saying, this is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I'm spending $600 a month for someone to tell me to be nice to people. And then, of course, my father, who was in sales for 45 years, he sold furniture. He said, let me get this straight. You're paying 600 bucks for somebody to tell you to be nice to people. And I'm saying to myself, yeah, Dad, I'm spending 600 bucks a month for someone to tell me to be nice to people. But here's the thing. And I just had this conversation with a coaching client today, is I did exactly what I was told. And what I know is that when the real estate market was crashing all around me and my colleagues were going bankrupt and losing their cars and doing all kinds of crazy things, that my business is growing. And it wasn't necessarily coming from the people that I was calling or writing notes to or visiting, but I was focused on the positive activities of helping other people. And the reward came back to me in just a 12-month period. Actually, in a 6-month period, I was able to earn $100,000 in net commissions in 6 months in the worst real estate market in history. And then the following 6 months, the same thing happened. So in 12 months, when the market was crashing, everyone else was having troubles and going bankrupt. I was earning an income because I was focusing on what? Serving other people. I wasn't worrying about the money. I was just doing the activities that would reach out, help, and serve other people. So when I read this section in this book, you don't know where the reward's going to come from. But if you focus, another one of my mentors is Zig Ziglar, and Zig says often said when he was still with us that if you help enough other people get what they want, you will have everything that you want. So how often do we spend time chasing the dollar, the money, whatever that goal is that we're chasing after, versus just focusing on trying to help other people? And how would the world be different? How would your world be different if you focused on helping other people instead of worrying about where your money was coming from, right? So, anyone have anything to add to that? I just felt the need to share that because it's a personal experience that really stood out to me in my life.
Hey
Nicole,
Frank, it's Nicole.
yeah,
Yeah,
go
I don't know
ahead,
if you saw,
Nicole.
I have my hand up. I would love to add to that.
Go ahead.
I love hearing your perspective. Of course, whenever there is something that, talks about banks, that piques my interest, because I spent probably the last, 3 decades in financial services, mostly on the operations side. But I remember that time very distinctly. Um, really for two reasons. One, I know, right, you know, not surprisingly, that was a time of cost cutting and a lot of layoffs. I remember there were a couple months, it was so bad that like anybody got up to just go to the bathroom or Starbucks run, and it was like, you coming back? Like there was just, it was this, like it was just, you could feel that type of tension just sitting in the office together. And it was, you know, some of those cuts after a while got really deep. Like, obviously there's some attrition, there's some, okay, those are not our best players. But then it's like, what, that, like you? Like what? Like, whoa, like that's getting real close to like that could be me. And we had a really good leader at the time who kind of brought us together and said, look, and at the time we were like what was called like the old like quality and productivity, like all the big Six Sigma stuff, and said, let's all come together and think about this time. Our roles are very much needed, right? In the great time when the sales are going on and stuff, this is not the sexy stuff that people talk about and gets a lot of credit. However, in times where it's lean and businesses need to go kind of back to the basics and look for efficiencies, and where can we start to get some additional things, and this is true of really any business, regardless if you're a bank or not, just was where I was at that time. And it said, right, if we get distracted by that, we're not doing our job. So like everybody like snap out of it, get back to business and focus on our work, which is leading people through change, working through process efficiencies, helping technologies and processes, and all those things go smoothly. Because in the great times, right, no one's necessarily paying attention to all the dollars and cents. But when times are lean, they get real detailed, right, about what things are costing and how things are being implemented. And it was be the best you can be in the role that you have. And it's like, if you keep that mindset all the time, you will never be looking for work. Smart people that can keep their heads calm and amidst these times, you will always, always, always be picked to look for assignments, regardless of what the economy is doing. And I'll say that was fantastic advice that has stuck with me over and over and over again. So I wanted to share that because despite whatever industry, to your point about if you're doing the work and service, you will always find a way to succeed regardless of what financial conditions are out there.
Thank you so much for that, Nicole. It's really interesting that the foundational principles never change, right? The
Yep.
things that we're here to do to help people don't change. And some advice that I gave today to a client was, regardless of what's happening, if you're finding yourself in struggle, if you're finding yourself going through some adversity, what we need to do is fall back on the foundational principles. Fall back on the things that we know work. And for my real estate coach who was helping me through that crisis, it was calls, notes, and pop buys is what we called it, and just doing those simple things that would help me focus on positive activity versus the negative environment that we were going through. So when you find yourself regardless of what's going on, whether it's business or you're in your personal life, and things just aren't quite working out the way that you want it to go, fall back on some of those foundational principles that have helped you get this far in life. I'm looking at the room. None of us are teenagers, so we've all been around for a little bit. We've all gone through some struggles. We've all worked our way through some adversity, and I think at times we have to fall back on, okay, what got me through that situation? And is today the day that I should maybe go back and dig deep into, as Napoleon talks in this book, he calls it your other self. Inside each of us, there's another personality that if we lean into it, it will help us push through adversity. It will help us with our persistence. It will help us recognize, okay, I failed today, but that's not permanent. There's a seed of benefit in here that I can find if I simply ask myself the question, not what did I do wrong, but what could have done differently. And I think it's really important to phrase it that way, because when we go through adversity, it just means we made a mistake. We didn't have a solid plan. So, okay, if that plan didn't work, what did I miss? What could I have done differently? And you open your eyes to that seed. When you talk about adversity, adversity is a big word. But when we talk about the seed of a greater, more beneficial benefit, that seed is very small. And we have to find it by digging deep into our other self to say, okay, what can I do next that will move me past this adversity? Right? So when Napoleon recognized his other self, this was the internal power inside of us that says, hey, look, we got this. We know how to get through this. We can find it. We're creative. We're intelligent. We're smart. We just have to be proactive. And we have to recognize that maybe we made a mistake. All plans are not made to be perfect. Matter of fact, most plans are not perfect. And when they don't work, what do? Some people go back into the word that was used today in my conversation. They go back into the cocoon. They pull the covers over their heads. Okay, I just don't want to play anymore. Why? Because you made a mistake? Let's just figure it out. It's just a mistake. Move forward. Okay? Anyone else have any comments? Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, I just feel like faith ties into this a ton. Not sometimes we just have no idea what to do, and just simply relying on faith to guide you through. And you mentioned movement, and I think you mentioned a couple weeks ago, sometimes it's any movement, doesn't matter what, but you just got to keep going forward. And so I just think faith plays a huge part in all of that.
Yeah, Brad, thank you for that. And I think there's two sides to faith, right? There's faith, the religious faith, and I think that's a wonderful thing. I was raised a Catholic, and I have faith. I won't say that I'm the best practicing Catholic in the world, but I believe in a superior power. But at the end of the day, sometimes when that adversity is put out there on us, it's a test. It's a test to see what we're going to do with it. And then the other side of faith, as I learned through Napoleon Hill, is how about faith in your own abilities, faith in yourself, faith in the fact that whatever gets tossed out in front of you, you can figure this out. And I'm talking to a room of mature adults. We've all been there. We've all had to deepen our faith in ourselves and our own abilities, and some of us take a little bit longer than others to kind of figure out who that other self is. I remember a commanding officer I had in the Marines who said she knew that if she pushed me hard enough, I'd eventually get pushed up against the back of the wall. My back would be up against the wall, and I would come out fighting. And to me, that's my other self, right? Who's your other self? How do you present when you're faced with adversity and a challenging market, for those of us in the real estate industry, the mortgage industry, or, Sean, how did you bring out that other self when you were serving as a firefighter, as a police officer? Sometimes we have to dig deep, and that's when we find who that other self is really all about, right? Anyone else? Who would like to read? I always get plenty of volunteers when I say, who would you like to read? All right, I'll do it. My other self has taught me to concentrate upon my purpose and to forget about the plan by which it is to be attained when I go to prayer. I am not suggesting that material objects may be acquired without plans. What I am saying is that the power which translates one's thoughts or desires into realities has its source in an infinite intelligence which knows more about plans than the one doing the praying. Stating the case in another way, may it not be wise, when praying, to trust to the universal mind to hand over the plan best suited for the attainment of the object of that prayer? My experience with prayer has taught me that so often all which results from prayer is a plan, if the prayer is answered at all, a plan that is suited for attainment of the object of the prayer through natural material media. The plan must be transmuted through self-effort action. Anybody take anything out of that? My other self has taught me to concentrate upon my purpose and to forget about the plan. What's your purpose? Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, so it just really rings a bell with my chief definite aim when I first read Think and Grow Rich. And part of it was, associating with some type of like-minded individuals. And I didn't try to meet with this group at all. It just fell into place. And so I can't help but just think of the words that are said right there in relation to that. But
Yeah, and we don't have to go the road alone, right? I mean, that's part of what this we call it a book study. It's a mastermind. It's a group of people coming together, trying to dive deeper, learn more, succeed more. Uh, Maybe simply identifying our purpose. What's our purpose? What's your purpose? When I ask my coaching clients, what do you want? I often get this deer in the headlights look. Oh my God, what for lunch? I mean, I don't know what I want, right? And the reality is, now that I'm over a year deep in this study, is what do you want for right now? Maybe it's a 6 week goal. Maybe it's a 6 month. Maybe it is a 10-year goal with a bunch of little, smaller steps. But we paralyze ourselves by making it so big that we can't conceive it. And Napoleon says, we know whatever the mind can see, can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Well, okay, let's start small. I met with a client today who needs to lose 60 pounds. Okay, that's doable. And if we do an average weight loss of 2.5 pounds a week, which is safe and it's healthy, what do we have to do to accomplish that? And we can accomplish that in 6 months. Is that workable? Sure. So that becomes a definite major purpose for now. And then when you get there, maybe you go a little bit deeper and a little bit bigger, but start it out small. I know when somebody threw the word definite major purpose at me, I said, oh my God, what are you talking about? Well, what's your purpose? And I identified my purpose. I did it today during the beginning of our study today in our introductions. My purpose is to inspire and to positively impact the lives of others. That's all. There's no monetary connection to that. There's nothing. I just want to help people. And that's my purpose. And I work at that every single day. And then somebody will ask me, well, how do you do that? And my response goes on to say, by helping them to identify and achieve their personal and professional goals. And if I can work at that every single day, I'm serving my purpose. Your opinion of my purpose does not matter to me. My opinion of your purpose should not matter to you. What is your purpose? Why are you here? And so when I read these words, it's all about, we got to have plans and we have to dig and we have to work and sometimes we have to look up to, infinite intelligence, say, oh, give me a plan here, help me out. Napoleon Hill did that when he was trying to identify the title of Think and Grow Rich. His publisher said, hey, look, you need to do it tonight or else I'm going to call it, make a boodle with your noodle or something. And Napoleon flipped out. He said, no, you can't do that. So he demanded of his subconscious mind to give him a name and it woke him up at 2 a.m. and it gave him the name Think and Grow Rich. He asked for infinite intelligence. How many times have you asked when you lay your head to rest at night for an answer to a challenge or to a consequence that you're dealing with? Give me a plan, help me out here. And I don't know who we're talking to. Whatever you believe in, it could be Buddha, it could be Jesus, it could be whatever. Who are you talking to help wake up in the morning with some type of guidance and direction? Heck, I could be talking to Nicole for all I know. She's going to send me a message down from North Carolina. I said, Frank, don't do that. All right. But that's all part of it. It's reaching out for help internally. Napoleon talks about his advisors, that he went to bed every night and he had this meeting with his 9 advisors, and they were all imaginary, but they gave him so many answers, so much so that it scared the daylights out of him. And he didn't do it for a couple of weeks because he was afraid it was becoming too real. And then one of them woke him up one night and said, where you been? Oops. He got called out and he showed back up. At the end of the day, how you do it is only important to you. Ask for guidance, ask for friendship, ask for infinite intelligence to step in, and it steps in all the time. That's why every one of us is still here. We're all still here because somebody helped. And I'll share some stories later about the 3 times that I'm not supposed to be here right now, but somebody helped me. Okay. So at the end of the day, here we go. All right. Now I've talked so doggone much. I don't know where I am. I think we're here, right? Stating the case in another way, we did that. Okay. I know nothing about any form of prayer which can be induced to work favorably in a mind that is colored in the slightest degree by fear. Is prayer part of your life? Now, this is a question coming from Sharon Lecter, who wrote this version of the book. Is prayer a part of your life? Do you trust God to hand over the best plans suited for attainment of the object of your prayer? Do you acknowledge that in order for your plan to be successful, you must take action? Comments? Oh, you're so quiet tonight. Come on.
This is a really quiet group tonight. Also, I mean, I think, whatever infinite wisdom in God means to you, I think is critical. But I think that the biggest takeaway is it has to be some action, right? That we have to move, beyond fear, and take some step. That has it, right? It can't be all in our head or all plans on paper. That it must be combined with some action, even if it's small and we're testing it out. But action is the key part of it, Frank.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, go ahead, April.
I was gonna say I agree. Action, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, you need to take action. You don't, I mean, I think your, what would did they call it, the universal mind or your infinite intelligence, when you take action, will guide you in the right direction. Either A, you're going to be doing the wrong thing and screw up, and then you know you're going to have to back up and go to plan B, but you just have to take some sort of action, small or whatnot, you've got to start somewhere.
So what's interesting is it's a couple of steps, right? Question number one, what do you want? What are we trying to accomplish? Question number two, what is it going to take for me to accomplish that? Question number three, am I willing to pay the price? And I think it's right there where we get caught, right? Every one of us in this room has identified something we wanted. We've actually written down a plan of action. It's on paper. We know what we need to do. We know what we need to do. And then the question, that last question, are we willing to pay the price? And that's where a lot of us get stuck. It's where a lot of us get stuck. Are we willing to pay the price? And if you are, then lastly, get into action. Take that first step, make it work, and tweak it along the way. Go ahead, Emmanuel.
Yeah, I think I just want also to respond to the question which was asked, do you believe in prayer and so on? And I've really found there is really that connection between a positive mindset and success in life and happiness. And I listen to a lot of Christian motivational speakers. And when I read the material of Napoleon Hill, he's always repeating the issue of faith. And today I have discovered he's also talking about the issue of prayer. And I have always wondered, was he a believer? Was he a spiritual person? Because, and when I look at it, I see that the time he came and started teaching, it was a great period of depression. Maybe it was another supernatural response to America and the divine intervention to reviving the spirit of people. And you can see what his work has done really, and it continued to do to many people, generations to come.
Yeah, that's really good insight, Emmanuel. Napoleon Hill, when he wrote Think and Grow Rich, actually, his first book was the Laws of Success, and then the Think and Grow Rich was kind of a condensation of the 9 volumes that existed. But over time, so I think the last book that he published was Think and Grow Rich with Peace of Mind, and it's when you read that book, you start to hear a different Napoleon Hill and an older, a wiser Napoleon Hill. So, when he's I think in the 1930s, he was probably one in his late 20s, early 30s, and maybe a little bit older than that. But as he got older, he seemed to speak a little bit more freely about his spiritual belief. He started using terms like God versus infinite wisdom or universal power or whatever, uh, because times were changing. And he was older and he was wiser. And so I think he always had a spiritual connection. He was just trying to find a way that he could say that without causing people to feel uncomfortable. So I know that when I read the book, the first time I read the book was Think and Grow Rich was in 1977. And I know when I got to the chapter on faith, I was raised in Catholic school for 8 years, from my first grade to 8th grade. And when I got to that chapter on faith, I said, okay, here we go. It's all about religion again. And that literally was what was my response. But now I'm 69 years old. My response is a little bit different now. Oh, okay. So the Bible's a book. And it's a book of stories. It's a book of stories about people. And I look at it from a different perspective, so I can share that knowledge from a different perspective. And I think that's what Napoleon was going through. He's trying to find a way to fit into the mainstream to get the message across, while at the same time holding true to his beliefs about faith, whatever that may have been in those days. I won't even begin to think of what that was. But at the end of the day, he was just trying to make sure he got the message out. He wanted to help people. He was helping people through the Depression. He's been given credit for helping the United States of America with being an advisor, I think, to 2 presidents to try to get us through this difficult time. with the information that he had about the 13 foundational principles of how to be successful, which have obviously grown to 17. But, at the end of the day, great point. Yes. Does spirituality take place? Come on. I think all of us know there's a bigger power somewhere. What you call it doesn't matter, right? It's when you call on it, does it work for you? And I'm not ashamed to say today that when I go to bed every night, I say a prayer, and I'm simply asking for guidance and direction to use the talents and skills that have been bestowed upon me to help me achieve my mission, which is to inspire and positively impact other people. That's how I do it. And then I say, good night, see you later. And, whatever works. So anyone else have any comments there as we go on? We still have plenty of time to read a little bit more. Sean, do you have anything to share?
I guess with God, how I look at it, I kind of go back to what you said about faith in yourself. Sometimes, I don't know, I pray to God. Sometimes I'm not some religious freak or anything, but sometimes I might say like an Our Father, and I try not to ask for anything. I'll just say like, thank you for what I have. So, but when you say faith in your own abilities, sometimes if you get through like a tough time, you can kind of like what I'll do is I'll chalk it up to like, wow, that was actually pretty good. I don't know how you get through it, but I guess that's where the other self, it's like you kind of have to dig deep. So I guess that's pretty
Yeah.
much all like what I got there.
Yeah, and I love what you just shared there too. You know what? Yeah, sometimes it's not about getting anything. Sometimes it's just about gratitude, right? What are you happy for? I'm happy for my life, my health, my wife, my home. I'm good. My family, I'm good. Yeah, there's 5 things. So what are you grateful for? Be thankful for what we have. And I'm often reminded in some way, shape, or form, almost every single day, that I have a lot more than other people have, and I should be very grateful for that. And so just acknowledging that gratitude, writing it down. If you journal, writing it down in your journal. It's just simply saying, yeah, I'm grateful for these things. And it gets you started in the right direction. It's not all about us, right? It's really not all about us. It's about how we can serve other people. I said at the beginning, we're here for one reason alone. It's to serve and help others. And they're only there to serve and help us. It's reciprocal. It just works around. And if we just looked at it that way and just dealt with it that way, it would be such a greater way to live. Just be grateful, be thankful, and be helpful. Yeah, here I go. Get off my soapbox. All right, somebody else is going to have to read because these people are getting tired of hearing my voice all the time. Who's stepping up? Bendu, thank you, my friend. I love you.
Love you too. A new way to pray. Since becoming better acquainted with my other self, my way of praying is different from what it was before. I used to go to prayer only when facing difficulty. Now I go to prayer before difficulty overtakes me when possible. I now pray not for more of this world's goods and greater blessings, but to be worthy of that which I already have. Yeah. I find that this plan is better than the old one. Infinite intelligence seems not at all offended when I give thanks and show that I'm grateful for the blessings which have crowned my efforts. I was astounded when I first tried this plan of offering a prayer of thanks for what I already possessed to discover what a vast fortune I had owned without being appreciative of it. For example, I discovered that I possessed a sound body which had never been seriously damaged by illness. I had a mind which was reasonably well balanced. I had a creative imagination through which I could render useful service to great number of people. I was blessed with all the freedom I desired in both body and mind. I possessed an imperishable desire to help others who were less fortunate. I discovered that happiness, the highest aim of mankind, was mine for the taking, business depression or no business depression. Last, but by no means least, I discovered that I had the privilege of approaching infinite intelligence, either for the purpose of offering thanks for what I already possessed, or to ask for more and for guidance. It may be helpful for every reader of this book to take inventory of his or her intangible assets. Such an inventory may disclose possessions of priceless value. May we all make an inventory of our blessings in life and give thanks for every gift that we have been given. I know that when I am at a low point in my life, I force myself to think of my family and friends and the blessings they have brought to my life. It is the quickest path up and puts my temporary setbacks into perspective.
Wow. Anything stand out in particular there for you, Bindu?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gratitude. That
Yeah.
is each day when I go to bed and the moment I get up, the first thing I used to do was saying gratitude for whatever I had received in this life. Whether it's adversities, no more adversities in my life. That is the truth. Because when I thought of the adversities, I could find the positiveness in it. So no more adversities, and I'm so grateful for each and everything I have received in my life.
Yeah. Gratitude is a powerful word. I can't remember. I think it was a gentleman by the name of Darren Hardy, who was a editor, publisher for Success Magazine for some time. He's a very successful business coach to millionaires today. But I think in his book, The Compound Effect, he mentioned that every morning when he opened his eyes, while he was still laying in bed, he would send 3 messages out into the universe to connect with someone that he was thinking of at that time. Maybe it was love to his mother or his father, or to a brother or sister, or just a message of gratitude for something before he ever got out of bed. He just took a few minutes to send those messages out to the universe. And, when I read it, I said, interesting, because I wonder how many of those messages were delivered and received and somehow acknowledged by the person that he was sending it out to. Because if we read Napoleon Hill, he talks about the brain as a transmitting and receiving station, very similar to the televisions and radios and the way those frequencies work. So if you're sending those messages out, I know that I found myself many times, and not necessarily when I'm laying in bed, but when I'm driving down the road, I'll be thinking of maybe I'm thinking about Bradford, and I say, well, I'm thinking about Bradford. Maybe I ought to give him a call today. And I can guarantee you, if I call Bradford today, he's going to say something like, "Oh my God, I was just thinking about you." And it's happened to everybody in the room, right? So listen to the hunches, listen to the messages, show gratitude multiple times a day. It doesn't have to be when you wake up in the morning, when you go to bed at night, could be throughout the day. When you see someone, and I see people every day who are so less fortunate than I am. And, I try to think, you know, how was I so lucky to have all the things that I have? And, what can I do to help that person? When we had a gentleman come over today to do some rescreening on our lanai. And, a couple of things, we saw him on Facebook. He responded to a message. He showed up on time. 2 times, and he did a good job. And he obviously didn't have a lot. And so when it came time to pay the bill, my wife and I have had a practice where we typically will give a $50 tip for good service. So we got an $80 bill, we paid $125 or $130. And it just feels good. And that gentleman was grateful and thankful. But you know what? He did a good job. And maybe we made his day. Maybe he can take his wife and family out to dinner tonight with the extra money. It's not all about money, but being grateful and showing gratitude to other people for the services that they provide to us. Look, I can't rescreen the screen. He's got skills I don't have. Sorry, I wasn't raised that way. So being grateful for that and treating people kindly. And what's interesting is that when I do that and I need help, guess what? Those people are always there to help me on short notice. I got a handyman that shows up all the time, and we've done the same thing with him. He does a really great job. And he showed up here one day on a Sunday when I had some water intrusion coming into my master bedroom. I didn't ask him to come. I just asked him, what should I do? He said, I'll be there in 5 minutes. That's the way the world is supposed to work. So I got 7:52. I'm going to stop the share. I don't want to start a whole new section right now. So we'll pick up there tomorrow. Let me get rid of the share. Can I do that? Yeah, stop share. All right, guys. Open forum, open room. What did you take out of tonight's session? What would you like to implement moving forward? Because I think one of the things that Cleona O'Hara, who is our CEO of Napoleon Hill Institute, often says, this isn't entertainment. This is education. And we're interested in how are you going to implement what we're learning. So what are we taking from these Wednesday night sessions? Sean, I know you're brand new, but I'm sure you probably grabbed something out of tonight. What can we take out of this and tomorrow move it forward? Anyone? Emmanuel, go.
Yeah, I think what I wanted to say is maybe to appreciate your initiative to find time to do this book review. And I think it really is a practical way of helping us to go through this book and learn and get more knowledge and self-development. Because I know really reading, I have so many books of personal development, but getting time to sit and read, I find it very hard. But this way is really helping us to read and understand this book and also take some notes and learn how we can also be helpful and kind to other people in the different profession we have.
Yeah.
So really thank you.
Thank you, Emmanuel. And you know what? It's a book study. It's a mastermind. And when a group of minds come together to talk about a common goal, whether it's just personal development, self-improvement, helping other people, it creates another mind. And if we listen to what each of us shares and make notes and take action, because there's that word action again, okay, how can I take action with this moving forward tomorrow? I would say, I would encourage you to start your own groups where you are. Get maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 people together in your living room over a cup of coffee. I mean, I have friends that sit in Bible studies every week, and that's the sole purpose of it is to read and discuss and share. Why not? Why not you? You can do it too. I do it because I enjoy it. It gives me reason to read. It gives me reason to study, and it gives me an opportunity to share and help. So you can do it too, and I encourage you to do that because it's fun, and and make time in the morning, even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes every morning to read a little piece. I got my little Think and Grow Rich in 10 minutes a day, which I read every single morning. I've got Think and Grow Rich just underneath it too. So if I get some extra time, I'll read that too. Just read a little piece every single day. and pick something out of it, right? So, April, you were getting ready to share something as well.
Oh, you were saying what we got out of today. Um, I need to get better at, what did they say, making an inventory of the blessings in your life. Um, because even though I know for like most Floridians, the last year has been rough. It's been rough for us too, but like you said, we are still way better off than most people are. And yeah, I do spend, a few minutes in the morning writing down my blessings, but as far as taking inventory and really focusing on it, I need to get myself in check on that and do it a little better.
Yeah, we have so much, right? We have so much to be grateful for, even with all the stuff that's been going on, whether it be here in Florida, North Carolina, Ukraine. I mean, there's stuff going on everywhere. I just found out, I think India was just bombing Pakistan. I mean, what's going on out there? So it's, being grateful that we have what we have. We live in wherever we are in our countries. We live in great countries, and we're healthy, and we're able to live a good life, and we should be grateful for that, and whatever that looks like, for us, right? So, yeah, April, we all need to take a little inventory, little check ourselves back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I notice I get a little poor me, my hubby, he works out of town, he's not home, he can't take me here or can't go there with me, but I mean, he's got a damn good job. I mean, and he does very well at it, and I mean, it's it's the little things. I need to suck it up, buttercup, you know.
You're using my marine terminology. Suck it up,
Yes.
Buttercup. There we go. All right. Anyone else? We got about 3 minutes left. Anybody else have something to share? Go ahead, Nicole.
Sorry, I was really getting myself off mute. I hadn't thought about this, but a couple weeks ago, I was thinking about things I either wanted to get rid of or do a few upgrade. I mean, we're talking like, a chair and a desk, like not like a house renovation, but some simple things. And I had called like our Salvation Army or something. And originally they're like, oh, we can't come. This was going to be for April, to the end of the month. And I was like incensed. I was like, I'm going to have to park outside. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, I should, like, I'm going to complain about this, like, that it's going to take so many weeks. And I'm like, come on, like, what am I complaining about? And so I actually took the opportunity and I actually ended up delaying them because I literally have like a garage full of things to give away. And I'm like, wow, I'm like, that was actually a blessing in disguise. Like, I can't believe my initial reaction was so silly. And now I'm like, whoa, I actually needed more time. Like, look at all these, like, I can't, like, there's so much in my garage. It's unbelievable. And I'm like, every day I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, I thought of something else I could put in there. So sometimes just putting new energy in your space and being able to share with your neighbors. So I just throw that out there.
Yeah. How much do we have sitting in our garage? Oh my goodness. My wife and I recently we put our house up on the market and we thought we had it sold and we started packing boxes. And then I started realizing, oh my God, I have so much stuff out here I haven't used in years. How can we move that, pass that on, helping other people out, right? Yeah, it's good
Great
stuff.
feeling.
Good stuff, exactly. Anyone else? Closing remarks. Yolena, where's our puppies today?
They were outside for a little bit. I just brought them in actually. So
Well, I just want to take a moment to say thank you to each of you for showing up. Sean, thank you for joining us tonight. I hope you join us again next week. And I want to encourage you, if you have a friend, it doesn't really matter when you jump into this book study. If you have a friend that maybe could use some kind ears and some intelligent feedback and conversation from the people in the room, you guys are great. And this is it's a global book study. I think that's awesome. That's really cool. And share it with your friends and invite them. All you have to do is share the link that I send you each week to remind you. Share it out with your friends. I welcome anybody and everyone from wherever they come from. So thank you so much for your time this evening. Uh, I appreciate your input. And I want to wish you all a great week, and I'll catch you next Wednesday.
Have a great night.
Have a great night,
Take care,
guys.
everybody.
Good night.
All right. Bye. Great meeting you, Sean.
Same here. Take care,
Good night,
guys.
everyone.
Take care, guys. Good night.